Okay, so now let's talk about render textures and turning this into a more realistic rendering of a theater space, right? The first thing I do want to point out before I get there is I did add this chair after this table when I set this up. And so now it looks like the chair is on top of the table visually in my plan view, in my top plan view. So to correct that real quickly, the easiest thing to do would be to bring this table to the front. So that's just a quick modify, send to front, and that will allow that chair to be sitting underneath it, which might be something that you come across as you are working out your ground plan, okay? So let's assume here we are, we have our floor, we have our wall. They're sort of generic sizes. Yours will be specific, probably in a multiple of 4, so that your carpenters don't kill you. And 4s and 8s, 4x8s. Those are the winners. So let's go ahead now and add some render textures to this picture. Okay. So I'm gonna hit Shift C. That's going to flip me into a render mode, okay? And if I come now and I switch from, in the teapot, from wireframe to OpenGL, I'll see a quick rendering of this space, okay? And the first thing I'm going to do, right, I already have curtains in that make it look curtainy in style, but I do want to change these walls to a darker color because they are not helping me in terms of visualizing the space. So I will need to switch into the theater floor plan layer in order to select them. Well, let's start here with this wall. I'm missing my object info tables, so let's go ahead and dock all tabs here again. That's going to give us our render tab back, which is helpful. And then I'm going to choose to make all parts of these walls, and let's just see if I can select, oh, okay, so those posts are the problem. So let me just select everything that's a wall first. These are all walls. So now I can do overall or by component, right? So I can do a left or a right side, and I can identify a texture for them. So let's say, I don't know which direction this wall is going. So let's just say left, and then let's choose a specific texture for this left side, okay? And the one that I've got automatically coming in right now is this black texture, right? Which is the Johnson Design Black RT. Okay, so I think that's just a black paint. What that's going to do is basically paint the inside of my theater black, right? So now it's a real black box except for those towers, okay? And that will allow me to get a rendering that looks closer to reality, okay? I'm gonna do the same thing in terms of texture on these 2 little pillars. So again, I'm gonna just, cannot apply sketch to objects. Can you be? No, oh, interesting. Let me just come in then, it's a symbol. So we do have to edit it now inside the symbol. Great, I'll do that. Let's come all the way in here, select it inside of the symbol, and then adjust the texture, okay? So now I can give it a texture, it's gonna get that same black paint, great, and I can exit this symbol back out again. Same thing over here. So if this is also a symbol, I gotta come inside the symbol, edit the symbol, and give it that same texture. So now everything is painted black. We kind of see where we're at, all right? I'm next going to go do the same kind of deal with the seating risers, right? They are also a solid addition, right? So we can jump in, change them from a class texture to a texture. They're also getting black on them, which I think works just fine. And then I don't know if I have a theater floor. So let's look in the theater floor plan and see if there's a floor object, and there doesn't seem to be, okay? So I'm going to just pop back out into top plan view, and I'm gonna add a floor by tracing the bounds of this venue so that we can have a black floor for everything to sit on top of. So this is just the way we did in our previous AutoCAD conversion project where I'm gonna use the polygon tool to trace the floor. Actually, let's do this on the outside edge so that we see it through the doorways. This space, okay? So now that is on top of everything else, which is not what we want. Modify, send to back. So now it's underneath the way that we would want it to be. And then I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to actually extrude it in the negative direction, 1 inch, right? So now it sits below. We could even extrude it a little bit more for our section view to be clear that it's the floor. So if I wanted to, we could do like a -1 foot extrusion, and that'll give you kind of a base floor level once we go into our section view, which would be nice. Then I can again come into the render texture and just change it to a texture, which is getting this Johansson black paint, right? If you want to choose a different texture, you can. There are a bajillions of them, and we're going to come in and do that shortly when we do the other thing, right? But these are all the textures, when I click back up on my file, that are already in this project, right? So it's a variety of different things. If I wanted to use, if I like wanted the risers to be kind of gray so I could see them against the floor, I might use this gray texture, plastic black RT. I don't know what the difference is, right? Or you can use like one of these sort of more textured textures if you'd like to. But in any case, now when I'm in OpenGL, switch again to OpenGL, my whole stage is black, right? So it's clear to see where my set is lying, all right? Next, I want to do the floor, right? So remember our floor object, that's on our scenery layer. So I'm going to switch back up to my scenery layer, grab my floor object, and I'm going to give it a texture. This wants to be a wood floor, I guess, probably not this black, right? So if I wanted to do a wood floor, let's see what my options are, right? There's a bajillion of them. Let's see what that looks like. I think it's not going to be what I want, but it's hard to say. What's happening? Wood floor. This is the common problem. You guys, everyone has this problem. It has no fill, this object, right? If it has no fill, it's not going to show up in the rendering. This happens to everybody. So that's why I can't see my floor, because right now my rectangle has no fill. When I come in here and I switch it to solid, all of a sudden my parquet floor shows up, right? And I can get a sense of whether that's the wood floor that I want. For this building in the Tenderloin, it's really not. I can try some other ones. I'm not loving any of these. I want more like a wood plank. So that will be your mission, right? Is to find a floor texture that actually kind of makes sense for this space, right? Let's go with that one for now. Then I'm also going to do that with my wall. I'm going to do a brick wall. You can do whatever kind of wall you want, but I do want you to throw a texture up on it. And then later in the semester, we'll learn about custom textures. But let's throw this up on the wall. It currently just stuck wood floor on the top edge, right? So if you tip it up, you'll see that there's now some random wood on the top. That's not what I wanted, but the reason is that it's giving it to the overall side, okay? And that's not what I'd like. So we're gonna change that back to class texture for overall. And we're gonna look again at the left side, but you could also look at the right side or the end caps or whatever, right? And let's come in and give that a texture. It's going to throw the last texture we had on it. It's putting it on the back of the wall, which is not, again, not what I want. So I'm gonna switch this back to class texture and go grab the right side of the wall and change the texture on that. All right, so now I at least know I'm on the correct side of the wall, but I'd like this to be brick. So I'm gonna come in here, grab my resources, brick, right, and choose a running brick. It's gonna download that texture, stick it up on my wall, and that now is a brick wall as my upstage wall in this space, okay? So that is how you real quickly throw a texture on stuff and get a quick rendering out that looks, I mean, it looks like something. I don't know if it looks like my research images. That would be up for you to decide to make yours look like your research images. We also can do this on our 3D image here, right? We can do an overall class texture, change it, make it something else, make it maybe not a brick paneled beanbag chair, but there are fabrics. So if I say fabric, there are options, right? A dark purple, weird fabric. You can also look in your existing stuff. There might be a texture that makes sense. There also can be other good options for you to create your own textures. But the basic idea is to go ahead and throw some basic textures onto the various surfaces so that we start to see in the 3D model a representation of what the show would look like. So that is using render textures, right? You're using this pane here. Oftentimes if it's a symbol, you have to double click to get into the symbol in order to edit it. But you can kind of see what you're doing here on the OpenGL view in the teapot. So go ahead and stick some render textures on here. We will then do exports of this project in the next video. So next step will be to create a ground plan, a section view, and a render view so that we have sort of our basic package, as well as 2 elevations. So we'll do an elevation for the wall and an elevation for the floor. So that'll be a full scenic drafting package. That'll be sort of the next phase of the project. Okay, thanks friends. Let me know if you have questions. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.